Right. So in this clip, I will be talking about the role of media in the cultural communication. So first, I want you to start thinking about a few things. So first, think about the U.S. movie, okay, and how the USA, how America is portrayed in the movie. What would be your first impression? Well, I would say my first impression of the U.S. through U.S. movie would be, the scenes happen in Forrest Gump, in movies like Forrest Gump, in, uh, like it depends on which movie you watch, but for me, it's just a lot of things that are happening, Wall Street and New York and stuff like that. I mean, that would be my impression of the U.S. movie. So probably now you can start thinking about, well, what is your impression of the U.S. in the movie, and then think about the U.S. in realities. Well, does it meet your impression? Okay, is it similar or is it different? And uh, what is different from your first impression? Uh, well, I would say well, I have never been to the US myself, but there are a lot of countries that I feel that, well, it's not exactly the same as I thought it would be. Take UK, for example. When I first watched the movie Notting Hill, then I sort of picture that it's the kind of uh, the the type of how should I put this the type of scenery that I will experience when I am in the UK, which partly true, because I mean if you are London, then that would be the kind of buildings that you will see. But there are other parts of the countries where things will be very much different from what you see in the movie. So there is a difference between how the media portray one country and what the country actually is in reality. So when media decides how to tell the story about the world, media creates what we call the frames that we use to understand the cultural difference. Okay, so the media, it's one way that they can create the frames, okay, and the frames of understanding, the frame of thought that we can use to understand the difference in the culture. Now let's have a look at some of the example. Okay, just imagine if you are foreign visitors to the US, and you may expect the country to look like places in the upper class neighborhood in Hollywood movies. Well, that would depend on your experience, really, watching the movies. I mean, if the movies or the series that you watch is Sex and the City, I'm not sure. You're probably too young for this, but Sex and the City would portray things to look like this. So it's like a really good life, the life of the writers of the magazines, and it's a group of people who are hanging out in New York and stuff like that. So that would create one set of idea for people. However, if you're watching a different movies, well, it's not a movie, it's a series called Friends, then you would get the feeling of what the lower class and middle class Americans are living, and how they are living their lives, and how they make living, how they socialize with friends and stuff like that. And this is what it looks like in the series Friends. So you know it can be a thin line between the illusion and reality. And I mean, just think about it this way: the view that a lot of foreigners have about Thailand is not exactly what it really is here. So there is a big gap between illusion that people have in mind about what they see through the media for a country, and what the country really is, okay, in reality. Another example would be the Latino and immigration problems in the States. Okay, so now with the current president of the U.S., Donald Trump, then we call we have they have the concept called Trump's wall, which encourages social segregation. Okay, so just to to make sure that people are uh, separated. And Latino immigrations, people from South America, and sometimes we would probably include people from Mexico as well. There are immigrations that are primarily illegal, and it's the source of social problems, and they see these immigrants as the group of people who create the problems for society. However, the Latino labor is also an important source of labor for the economy of the country as well. So as you can see, there are a lot of conceptions, conflict in the society, and it's not something that can be easily defined. Now, there are a few things that we should probably need to remember. So the first thing is that media produce and reproduce the meanings of our own culture. And media also serve as a primary means of cultural transmission within a single culture. However, it should be noted that, well, such cultural transmission within the culture, it's not a conscious process. So we are not normally aware of how the culture is being transmitted to us. I mean, let's think about all the Thai things that you see in the Thai lakon or melodramas and stuff like that, and you start to absorb some of the culture that it's portrayed in those dramas and series, but and you pick it up, but it's not so consciously, and you sort of pick it up naturally through looking and through watching them through the media. Now let's have a look at some of the ideas that you probably to get you start thinking. And in different cultures, then we would have different perspective on these type of things like success. How would you define success? Beauty, like what type of people you would classify as beautiful, handsome, the concept of nationalism, the concept of true love, cultural norms, and there are a lot of other things under the norm like stereotypes, essentialism, and viewpoint, the way you view the world. And there are some questions that I want you to probably think about. The first one, it's countless studies suggest that women have been frequently displayed as objects for male desires. So women are not treated as equally as male are, and they are often portrayed as the objects for male desire. I mean, do you agree or disagree? You can probably post your ideas, okay, in the comments. And the U.S. American media socially constructed what it means to be Asian. So they have a sort of a stereotypical way of looking at Asians, and it actually comes ending with a phenomenon called linsanity. So it's the how shall I explain? It's the phenomenon that I think it's Jamie Lin. I think he was the point guard for New York Knicks, which was a team in the American Basketball League or NBA. And the happening of Lin, it's just something that is extraordinary, because it's a phenomenon that people all over the world are all excited about, especially in the States, and that changed the way that American people actually view Asians, they start to be accepted more, and there is a lot of it probably destroy a lot of racial boundaries between the American and Asians, and Asians start to be accepted for their having talents and stuff like that. And the last point to think about is the messages are not merely received by passive audiences, but rather the messages that are communicated are used, are maintained, and transformed by them as well. Right. So this clip is a bit long, okay, but I hope it gives you a lot of information that you can take, and you can probably start thinking about the role of media in intercultural communication. Right. So I see you again in the next clip, which will be the last clip for this week.